Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Matthew down here in the game room with another episode of Watty's channel, and this is going to be my favorite LJN tournament revisited. So I do have some bad news for, or at least bad news for me, really. So on Sunday, September 18th, I did come down here. I made 3 videos. One of them was the Ricky Steamboat video, and the first 2 videos of the LJN tournament. Unfortunately, the second video saved, but the first video of the tournament did not. Since then, I made episodes 3 and 4 of that tournament, and now I'm coming back and redoing the first one. And it really sucks because, you know, like I said, you're going to hear it in the next couple of videos. I'm going to be talking about it. You're never going to say in the first video what you're going to say in the second, or you're never going to say in the second what you want to say in the first, you know, so what have you. And it's kind of frustrating. You know, you spend a lot of time down here, you know, giving good content, and just to lose it all like that. The file was corrupted or didn't save properly, what have you. I don't know. It's frustrating, but it's gone. So I am redoing this first round or first video. So you see like kind of like the clothes in the background or the dates that I'm doing the video. It's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be all over the place. But I am gonna post the videos in the proper order it should be. So this first tournament we're looking at, or this first video, we're looking at 7 matches, 7 matchups. And just to recap, I am going off of the way that the figures are situated on the shelf. However, at any point, if there is a figure on the shelf that has a duplicate, meaning I'll have both original and a custom figure of that, the person to the left will not face the person to the right. It's going to face the next one that doesn't have duplicates. So all originals will face their custom contemporaries, and the best figure from that lot is going to move on to the next round. Alright, so the very first one we're looking at is going to be one of my all-time favorite figures, and that is the Andre the Giant figure from Series 1. And some of the things that a lot of people dislike about the figure includes the elongated face feature, big forehead, you know, big jawbone and whatnot. The hair is, you know, excessively long, which is fine. I mean, Andre the Giant had extremely long hair. Now, I don't know if it was from wrestling or if it was from the movie, but when I kind of remember Andre the Giant, I think about, you know, the Princess Bride. And I think it's one of the very first times I've ever heard him talk, too, so that was always, you know, interesting to hear that. One of the most beloved and iconic characters in history, and later on in life, when he got injured and just completely lost mobility, I don't like to think of Andre the Giant like that. You know, I always want to think of him as someone who was very agile in the ring, especially for a big guy, you know, 500 plus pounds. I think at one point when he fought Hogan in '87 during WrestleMania 3, he was like 585 or something. And I remember that matchup because that was the body slam match, and it was like the greatest thing that ever happened to wrestling. And of course, watching Hogan drop the leg and then, you know, pin him. And from what I understand, that was the first time Andre the Giant's ever been pinned in a match. But it happened to another legend, so you know, it is what it is, I guess. In his later time in life, just seeing Andre as like a bigger than life feature, but just couldn't do nothing but headbutt and slap. I mean, it just became really boring in his matches. So the Andre the Giant figure does go against a very simple custom, and it's one I got from a seller named Kyle. I forget his exact title on eBay. It's Likin, Likin, and then some numbers, I believe. And I bought it because of the comparability to the maroon, more purple colors he wore earlier in the 80s. Now this is more of a red color, but I mean it's a custom. I mean it was inexpensive. I think I only paid like maybe $15-20 for it or something. Maybe not even that much. I don't remember. You know, I still think it's a great figure and I like it a lot. I did commission my buddy Eric to try and do one just like this. but I think he's working on a Series 2 Andre the Giant with the maroon colors. So, but I think the Series 1, obviously with the long hair, more actually is more appropriate based on the time period he was wearing the uniform. In this particular instance, I love red, my second favorite color, but I love blue more. And in this case, I do like the not only the color better, but the originality of the figure. So original Series 1 LJN Andre the Giant moves on to round 2. Next one's going to feature one of my favorite LJN figures, period. Now, I've talked about this a lot in the past. Growing up, my family, my brothers and I, we had Galoobs, we had Hasbros. Hasbros were always the dynamic force of the wrestling line. The Galoobs, they were just because, they were there, essentially. For the most part, they were horrible figures. You had a few good figures here and there, but the Sid Vicious Galoob, though, in my opinion, it has always been the greatest wrestling action figure of all time. It was harder than Hasbro, so you didn't have to worry about it breaking. It had a fantastic wrestling fighting pose. And so when I started collecting LJNs, and I saw this, it was very reminiscent of that Sid Vicious figure. And yes, this figure came out roughly 5 years prior to the Galoob figure. But, I still make that comparison on a consistent basis. And this figure is very bulky, holds a lot of weight. And with me, with the figures, like the Yokozuna from Hasbro or the King Kong Bundy from LJN, figures that hold a lot of weight, to me, it means value. And I absolutely love the figure altogether. And he just has that type of pose, It's not just, his legs are spread far apart enough to the point where he can be body slammed perfectly. And he's got that beautiful body slam pose. Clothesline, punches. This figure can literally do it all. Absolutely fantastic. One thing I want right now. So one of my recent purchases was a 1990 Royal Rumble. And I think that sent me back like $30 plus shipping and all that. But I want the 89 Royal Rumble because I want to see Big John Studd in that 89 Royal Rumble. I want to see him come out victorious. And Big John Studd, he's a big fella, probably 350 plus pounds, and not exactly bulky in the stomach area, just a big guy, tall, strength wise, so it adds on all that extra weight, and just a very difficult guy to body slam. And then had the whole competition where a wrestler would be paid if they could slam him. And then one day, he's in the ring, and then you see this massive giant coming down the aisle. Yeah, this man's got to be terrified. I mean, why wouldn't you? Seeing someone that's 7 feet tall, 500 pounds coming at you. Unbelievable figure. Absolutely love it. In this matchup, he squares off against Hillbilly Jim. I actually think the Hillbilly Jim figure is probably the most affordable figure in the entire LJN line. I think when I first started acquiring LJNs, the very first figure I acquired, I talked about in the past, was the Volkov. This was the second one. I think a purchase price was like $6 on this one. Taxes, insurance, shipping for like $10, I don't know. And a lot of people hate on the figure, and that's gonna be a common theme with a lot of the figures I talk about. They hate on the figure because they hate the character. For me, I kind of remember going back watching some old videos, YouTube videos, what have you, and it's a refresher. Like, I don't remember off the top of my head, but watching those videos, I'm like, oh yeah, that's so reminiscent. I remember that. I think it was like Superstars of Wrestling or something, type of Saturday morning type show. Hillbilly Jim, Bobby Heenan, a couple other folks, sitting around a table, Mr. Perfect, and kind of commentating about that week's wrestling matches. And what kind of stands out with Hillbilly Jim, the only thing that kind of stands out about this character, decent commentator, I think. Watching Macho Man come on screen, talk about the perfect tag team partner, and of course he was referring to Mr. Perfect, who was sitting right there next to Heenan. Giving him the opportunity to join forces with Macho Man to take on Ric Flair and become new tag team champions, what have you. Give him a nice little pay bump and all that. Hillbilly Jim, the figure itself is not a bad figure, to be honest. I like the facial, hair and all that. To me, that's a really nice head sculpt. It's kind of reminds me of like a Duke the Dumpster Drozy type character, or Henry Godwin, something like that. So I don't mind the coveralls. And the actual LJN card backing, he had a black T-shirt. I was thinking about getting something like that, custom made. Simple paint job, not anything flashy. Like I said, I like the figure. There's nothing wrong with the figure itself. He does have certain features. DDT pose right there. He's got the one-arm punch, but he can do one-arm body slam. Not my preferred method, but it's still a decent figure. The figure gets hated on because it's so simple. You can find it pretty much in any lot of figures that someone's selling. Overall, it is a decent figure. And is it something that could go 3-4 rounds in this type of competition? Probably not. But in this particular instance, you've got Hillbilly Jim, a good figure, not great, going against one of the absolute elite figures. Not just a top tier, it's an elite figure. So, it's not even a question. Big John Studd, moving on to round 2. Hillbilly Jim, going home for the competition. Now, my all-time favorite wrestler and one of the all-time greatest LJN figures, and like I said, LJN, they really, did the right thing with Series 1 figures. I mean, all of the figures, their poses are so absolutely amazing. Because once you get to Series 2 and onward, very few figures have really fantastic poses. And I don't think until like Series 6 is when the poses really start to explode again. But Hulk Hogan, an absolute perfect pose for an absolute perfect wrestler, in my opinion. I mean, I've heard it said before, and I'll repeat it myself. Hulk Hogan is my childhood. Hulk Hogan, Mean Gene Okerlund, Vince McMahon, those guys are childhood for me. And there are just so many things that I don't even have to, go back and watch old videos or anything like that, because this man is such an iconic character in my memory. Sorry, I got to resituate myself. Sorry about that. Kind of an interesting story, and I don't know if it's real or not, so I really can't say for sure. So I think when I was like maybe 7 years old or something, let's say 1992, my mom, my sister, my older sister and I'm not sure if anyone else went with us, but we left Chicago, we took a Greyhound, and we went down to visit my uncle and cousins in South Carolina. Sorry, got my feet stuck. And at one point I was trying to leave the bus in the back, and I couldn't exit, I couldn't push the doors open and whatnot. And this guy stands up and, hey, let me get that for you, and opens the door for me. I swear to God, I think Hulk Hogan was on that Greyhound bus with me. I remember looking at him and thinking that's exactly who he looked like. If that really was Hulk Hogan, I don't know. I mean, why does a man of that caliber, at that point in his life, why is he taking a Greyhound bus? So, probably not. But man, I didn't sit there like big-eyed or anything like that. Like, I wasn't smiling. But man, if that really was him, I want to slap myself every time I think about it, because how many opportunities are you going to get to meet Hulk Hogan? But Hulk Hogan, Series 1, perfect figure. The first custom I've ever acquired didn't come from Wrestling Rider. It didn't come from Random Treasures. Nope. It came from Andrew Sable, Move Over Swanson on eBay. And it's just a fantastic paint scheme. I mean, there's so many things to think about. I thought maybe this was like a Series 5 white shirt Hogan type of scheme. I thought maybe they were trying to imitate Rip Thomas from No Holds Barred. But overall, I remember watching some old videos. You got Hulk Hogan in '84 white knee pads, white trunks, white shoes. Then later on, 85, 86, I think, maybe even before that, he was wearing this type of color scheme. I talked about it in past videos. I didn't ever remember Hulk Hogan wearing all white, but that's not true. I think it was Rocky 3 when Hulk Hogan got started in that movie with Mr. T. He was in all white during his match with Rocky, so I should have remembered that. And I kind of put this little Mr. America on championship belt on him. So the story that I heard is in the early 2000s, 2001. I guess Vince McMahon was trying to get Hulk Hogan out of the company. Fell out of infatuation with him, whatever. Wanted to keep him sidelined. So in order to wrestle, he put on a mask, became Mr. America. But, based on, build and size and fighting a technique, you're not fooling anybody. You could tell from the mask that this was Hulk Hogan, and I'm like, come on. This is an absolutely beautiful figure, and I love it. I mean, compared to a lot of my other customs, this one is so simple, but sometimes, like I said, the simple things are perfectly fine. Sometimes they stand out more than others. This one came from Buddy Daly, Stanger GQ on eBay, and it is a phenomenal figure. And I love how they use like these pipe cleaners, kind of like a little feather. Let me get on there. So this one is a Hollywood Hulk Hogan from WCW. And like I was saying, they got this little pipe cleaners that they fold over. It kind of creates like a little feather scarf. You see it on like my Jimmy Carvin character later on. You'll see it on a few Hulk Hogan figures. And everything from from like the face where the hair and mustache is blonde, but then you get into the beard and facial hair where it's all nice and dark. Love it. You got the little Hollywood Hogan on his pants. Hollywood Hogan. Everything about this figure, from the lightning design to the shoes, is absolutely phenomenal. Even gloves, man. Come on, look at that. That's just all around perfect figure. And I think this is the cream of the crop of this group, but I'm still going to go with my very first custom, moving on to round 2. I just absolutely love this figure, and there's actually a fourth Hulk Hogan Series 1 figure that I'm supposed to get pretty soon. So my buddy Eric, Wrestling Rider, I commissioned him to do a original San Francisco toy maker from Series 1, or on Series 1 Hulk Hogan. So the Hogan's going to have a yellow shirt with red pants. And I was really hoping to have that by now so I could include it in this competition. But either way, I'll probably show it the next time I show up this figure, just as like a reference. But I don't know. I still think that the white shirt Hogan would come out victorious either way. Okay, so the next competition is going to feature the first LJN figure I ever acquired. So I'm kind of like a lot of other people. You watch the Netflix series, and I wanted to watch it because I wanted to find out what the toys that I had were called. Yeah, I've known of Hasbro, I guess, later on in life, but when I was a kid, I never referred to them as Hasbros. I didn't know what they were called, who the manufacturer or anything like that was. It wasn't until I started collecting all these lines I started figuring out who all these companies were and everything. And so when I say LJNs, I'm simply talking about the wrestlers, even though they make a ton of different things, video games and toys-wise and whatnot. And I figured, you know what? I see how the Hasbro sell, what they sell for, and I figured that these guys, people were going to watch that show, and they were going to just go ballistic and just buy these things up like crazy. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to be part of that. And I bought the figure. I bought the very first figure. I thought I could buy it for cheap, sell it for a bundle. And I got the figure and I held it in my hand. I'm like, dang, you got me. Anyone that's been watching my videos, I'm sure you've heard this story a few times. I've brought it up a number of times already. It was just such a beautiful figure. And the size when they were talking about in the TV series, they didn't do it justice. This is a phenomenal figure, and for the longest time, I had this one as my fourth favorite figure. I guess at the time I had like Andre the Giant #1 at like my favorite. Maybe Hogan at #2, Stud at 3, Volkov at 4, then Junkyard Dog at #5, and of course as my collection started growing more and more and more, figures like Volkov and Junkyard Dog, they fell off the top 10. They're probably not even in the top 15 anymore. Well, I think I probably would put this in top 15. It's just a very fun figure, just like Hogan and whatnot, arms out, just like Andre. They got the arms out, good fighting pose for body slams. He has his arms in, kind of like the Billy Jack Haynes figure, a little bit too much, and his arms and hands are kind of small, but this is a fantastic figure. The worst thing that I just don't like about this figure is this hunchback that you have right here in the shoulder area, but other than that, fantastic piece. Nikolai Volkov, as you know, tag team champion with the Iron Sheik. This is an incredible piece. And he is squaring off against Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Jimmy Snuka, to me, is not like a headliner or anything like that. A fan favorite, sure, but nothing special. And this extremely skinny body type is just, so out of place with the rest of the figures. Very simple figure, just underwear, knee pads, basically, no shoes or nothing. So as far as design, you can live with that. But what you can't live with is one of the worst poses of toy making history. And when I did my top 10 least favorite figures of all time, how in the world I forgot to include this figure in the top 10, I have no idea. Or did I include it? Actually, I may have included it. I don't remember. I'm trying to think, but I can't remember. If I didn't include it, it should have been in the top 10. And if I did, all right, great. I guess I'll have to rewatch that video to find out. But this had the potential to be the worst all-time LJN figure, and I think Rick Rude obviously had to come in at #1 because of the simple fact that he had no playability. This is just a god-awful figure, and in this battle, there's no reason I'm harping on it. You know Nikolai Volkov is going to clean the floor with this figure. And Jimmy Snuka, I mean, like I was saying earlier, not like a top-line wrestler anyways. One of my most recent memories is watching the 2010 Royal Rumble. Yeah, it may have been 2008, but I think it was 2010. And, a lot of time in the Royal Rumbles, they bring back legends and, guest stars. They had guys like Drew Carey, guest starring in a Royal Rumble. And I hate that. Here's the thing about the Royal Rumble. It's the one matchup in wrestling that I enjoy more than anything. Closely behind it is Battle Royal, but the Royal Rumble is just such a fun competition. And when you see someone enter a Royal Rumble and they're eliminated within the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it's so completely wasteful, and I absolutely hate that. And when you have Ted DiBiase coming at #1 and he eliminates 4 guys in a row, or you got Steve Austin, guy comes in, throws him out, he sits on the ropes for 5 minutes. Well, not 5 minutes, for 2 minutes. Another guy comes in, he throws him out, goes back, sits on the ropes for another 2 minutes, and he does that for 10 wrestlers. And it just, to me, that was I think it was the 2008 Royal Rumble or something. It was one of the most boring Rumbles I've ever seen. And that's why nowadays I gravitate towards the female wrestlers, because at least their wrestling is entertaining, and a lot of artistry in their techniques, a lot of acrobatics and all that. So I talk about that to talk about the 10 Royal Rumble, where Jimmy Snuka comes back, and he's in there for a little bit, and a little eye poker and whatnot. Few minutes later, Roddy Piper enters. You know how they had their feud back in the 1980s, and I think Roddy Piper broke his neck or something. And Piper, he shows up, takes off his shirt. The man's severely out of shape. which is very disappointing. Kind of thinking back how you like to think of wrestlers back in your heyday. So, and the look on Jimmy Snuka's face when he saw Piper, I don't know if that was terror or what that was, but like either he was acting or the man was legitimately scared because that was incredible. But yeah, neither one of them had a legitimate chance of winning. I mean, Piper, I didn't mind seeing in that competition. He always, to me, I think Piper really is a great wrestler. And this one right here, waste of a roster spot. Anyways, moving on. Nikolai Volkov defeats Jimmy Snuka. Another one of my top 10 least favorite figures is the Iron Sheik figure. So, you got Stud, Hogan, Andre, you've got Volkov, and you got Junkyard Dog. That's 5 top tier figures in Series 1. But then you got Piper, and you got Sheik, and you got Snuka, also Series 1 figures, and they're they're top 10 figures of the worst figures of the LJN line. Display-wise, this is a fantastic figure. I mean, it looks great. I mean, I love the little elf shoes, little pointy tips, the design of the pants all around. It looks fantastic. What gets me about this figure, it's basically unplayable. Yeah, you got this little guy basically lift up the rubber, kind of throw a punch. I don't know what he's doing over here. I talk about it all the time, drop an elbow. Figures, any figure could drop an elbow. I mean, that's not even an attribute for me anymore. It's a unfun figure to play with. It's just, I wouldn't understand how anyone could get any enjoyment from this. And adult collector, display wise, sit on my shelf, love it. As a kid trying to work with this, no, I would be miserable. I would be so frustrated. I do have a duplicate. So unfortunately, this figure is going to move on to another round. And the custom version is so absolutely remarkable. And what I love so much about it is the uniqueness. I mean, who would think to take away the pants and essentially, strip away the pants and give them, trunks. And the design of the boots, I love that. The way they kind of mirror each other like that. This is a fantastic piece, don't get me wrong. In this particular matchup, I don't know, I'm going to have to think about it. See, I'm trying to think about the Hogan matchup back in, I believe it was 83. So we know Nikolai Volkov, Iron Sheik, he took on Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund was champion for years, defeated him, and that's where you get that, infamous, beautiful green belt. And about a month later or so, he took on Hulk Hogan. Hogan defeated him, and, Hogan's like one of the most tenured champions out there. And, of course, I belt Hogan, I belt Iron Sheik. I belted Bob Backlund figure that I have with the green. I wanted to put my other green belt on Hulk Hogan, but I also wanted to keep the original Hogan with a black belt because that's what LJN came up with. So instead, I put that green belt on, Big John Studd. I mean, someone who comes out around the same era or whatnot. It's a tough choice. Love the figure and everything. I'm going to go with the original. And I think at the end of the day, even though the shoes are better than the original, I just like the pants design, and whereas this is simply no design on the legs. I'm not going to talk about that one too much because it's such a bad figure. Alright, so this next one, we've already seen these videos, the comparable LJN videos featuring Roddy Piper. Again, on my top 10 list of worst figure. And I absolutely love Roddy Piper. I think he's an amazing talent. He had Piper's Pit, which is incredible. Here's the thing about Roddy Piper. Because he's loud and obnoxious a lot of the time and very combative, people like to hate on him and talk about how he's not making sense or anything like that. But he is also one of the most entertaining professionals in the business, and seeing him with like Hogan and like Thunder in Paradise. I think it was a movie and a TV show. Yeah, I remember that as a kid. I couldn't tell you what it was about. I just remember a boat and water and everything, but I know I watched as a kid, and I knew how much I loved it way back when. I actually bought the Thunder in Paradise movie. I haven't watched it yet, and I've had it for about a month or so, maybe even longer. And you see him in like a Royal Rumble, whatnot. He's not someone who just comes in and gets beat up and thrown out within minutes. He's a legitimate contender every single time, and he does it throughout like the little mediocre wrestlers. He throws out like top name characters. I saw him in a six man tag. I think it was like '85 or something. They said it was like his retirement matchup. It was 3-on-1 after two others got pinned, and he came out victorious, which was, if that's going to be his retirement match, his last match, yeah, he's gonna be the winner. You can't not give him, let him go out on top. But he is just such an amazing wrestler, and we're going up against some of the Elite Customs, and I'm gonna show them all at one time because anyone that saw the recent video, comparable LJN video, you would have come across all of these customs. So, let's see. The reality check came from a seller named Sir Max-a-Lot on eBay. And this one had blue trunks. I remember him in red. I remember him in blue. I think I like the ones in blue a little bit better. Oh, got this upside down. Trying to see how I got this so I could put this back on appropriately. Alright. So, great figure. Better than the original. So right off the bat, original's knocked out. And then we got the Hot Rod, which is just like the white shirt version, except the Hot Rod is a lot more bold, brighter, it just sticks out more. And I just love the black shirt better than the white. And this is another red trunk Roddy Piper figure, just like the original. So putting these two against each other, I got this one from Stinger GQ. I think yeah, this one's the better figure. He's going to kick out the first custom. And then we've got Piper with the Panther. No competition there. And finally, Piper with his Icon t-shirt. Another blue trunk shirt. Absolutely beautiful. Love it. But again, none of these figures are going to surpass the Hot Rod with the hot neon flashy bold colors. So the black shirt Hot Rod Roddy Piper moves on to round 2. Since I only have one figure left from round 1, I am going to have to dig into the round 2 to finish off this matchup. And the first figure is Junkyard Dog. Junkyard Dog is so unusual. Like, I talk about a lot of finishers and weird movements, and some of the gimmicks are just over the top. Like you'll see him kind of like get on all fours and start barking at wrestlers on the ground, and they'll be laying down. He'll kind of like come up and like headbutt them, kind of move them. I don't know. It just weird all around. But Junkyard Dog, this is one of those figures that I guess if you're using it as a kid, or heck, if I wanted to use this right now, why not? Play is play. Fun is fun. This is a figure that you'd use to have a lot of damage against others, but it's not something that you would use as like a tag team champion or intercontinental champion or anything like that. I miss those old days when there was only 3 championships. Heavyweight champion, intercontinental champion, tag team champion. To me, those will always be the only championships. Once you start throwing on all these additional belts, hardcore champion and European champion, and just it's so confusing. It just seems like there's like 20 or 30 championship belts out there. So it just seems like the WWF, WWE, whatever, are just trying to put every wrestler they have as a champion. there's something stupid I saw recently where you could pin somebody anywhere at any time, like 24-hour champion, I think it was called. Just weird. This is a fun, but back to the figure. This is a fantastic figure. Again, legs spread apart, arms spread apart, great fighting pose, punching, slapping, clothesline, good body slam pose, absolutely fantastic. Not quite elite, not anymore, so I didn't have him in my top 10, but I still think he would crack the top 15 if I were to expand on my favorite figures. So we cut into the very first figure from round 2, which is going to be another Andre the Giant. Just like Andre Series 1, the only difference, they shaved his head essentially. I still love this figure, and when I talk about my top 10 favorites, I still list the Series 1 Andre on that list, but Series 1, Series 2, Series 6, it don't matter. I prefer the blackstrap Andre because that's what I grew up with. That's what I know most familiar with. But this is a fantastic figure. Now, unlike the first version, they moved his hand positioning a little bit, made it a little bit more different. So you could see that both the arms are basically extended a lot more with the first version. So the poses aren't 100% identical, as you would think. But I believe this one and Series 6 share the same exact pose. It's just an overall beautiful figure. I mean, I just absolutely love this one. And I collect this like crazy. I purchase these like crazy. And I try to get them customized if I can. A problem with buying something like this, a figure I absolutely love, is when I buy it, it's really hard for me to sell it. Not because people won't be interested, but because I don't want to get rid of it. So if I find one that with really mint colors, then yeah, I'll probably hold on to it. But if it's like a lot of paint fade on the boots or the hair or whatnot, I might go ahead and try to send it up for customization or something. And this is one of those really, really tough calls because we already have an Andre the Giant in this competition. Do I dare eliminate a top-notch figure in Junkyard Dog to essentially keep the same figure going? Yes. Love the Junkyard Dog figure, and it's hard to get rid of them in the very first round, especially since that should technically be a second or third rounder. But the second of the Andre the Giant figures are moving forward to round 2. All right. So, just to recap before I close this video, this is the second time I've made this video. So, videos 2, 3, and 4 have already been created, and this video will be posted obviously before those because I want to keep this particular thing in order. I am sorry I couldn't say everything that I did the first time around. So, which is sad because that was a lot of work, and I thought that video was really good. But hopefully you guys enjoy this one. And I'm sorry about the almost 40-minute video. But it seems like doing it this way, we are going to, hover around 35-40 minutes per video in this competition. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And let me know what y'all think. See you later. Goodbye for now.